Hey guys, Bright Lies here, and welcome to another Vanguard Deck profile. As you can see here, I have the Dominate deck ready to showcase. Now, when this deck was first announced, there was a lot of talk about it in the community, obviously. Like, wow, taking over your opponent's rear guards. That's gonna be, like, the new meta, the new Gear Chronicle. It's gonna be OP, busted, no way to balance. What was Bushiroad thinking? So stupid, right? But the thing is, after getting the deck, after all the hype, I was hyped for it, kind of. It sounded exciting to play. All the kids at your locals would be excited about it because, they're like, wow, it's so cool, the villain used it and Rex Chrono with it. And, a lot of hype was built around Nubatama a clan long forgotten ago. Including me, I did board the hype train. So, after actually building the deck myself and trying it at my locals, I did not actually find it that broken. I found it okay to deal with. Like, most of the time, my opponent knew, oh yeah, I don't call that many rear guards, so you can't get a 5 unit Mugen Lord going off, and really, doesn't have as much impact as you would expect. I very rarely got to use another unit skill as my own, like, because just the opponent was smart enough not to either A, play the deck that would allow me to do that, or B, they just didn't have it. Like, in this current meta state, there's very few units, I feel, that actually get bonuses upon attacking. Like, maybe there's Morfessa, or maybe there's a History Maker. But, like, against Granblue, which is, like, the most popular meta deck in my locals, they don't really have a on-attack, get big boost or anything, so really, you can't help actually Granblue out, which is kind of annoying. But yeah, that's just my first impressions of the deck, so yeah. So let's get started. As starter, we're playing from the trial deck, Stealth Dragon Madoi. He's just a really good generic starter for domination. If you don't like him because Generation Break, I would actually recommend playing the Grade 3 Searcher because you really want to guarantee that you get a Shonui ride. But this guy's ability is obviously the Forerunner, and when a dominated unit attacks, you can move him to the soul, draw a card, and give one unit 3k power. So this can help a dominated unit hit better numbers, fetch you an extra card to replace itself, and use the soul to fuel your resources. And soul is somewhat important because it can help you fill up the field, get draw advantage, and all that good stuff. So yeah, he's just a really good card in general. Next up for grade 3 is the boss monster, Shonui Obito. Stealth Dragon Shonui Obito. He's really good. Well, good for what he does. So, his first ability is Auto. At the beginning of your ride phase, you may choose a card from your opponent's drop zone. If you do, your opponent calls that card to rearguard circle, and at the end of the turn, retire that unit. Keep in mind, your opponent can choose what rearguard circle. So, if they have a field like this already, and you choose this, they can just call over that unit, and then they still only have 2 units, but this one dies at the end of turn. But, yeah, so this, they choose where to put it. Has to be a rearguard circle, not open rearguard circle, so there's that. And his second ability, which also caused a lot of, oh my gosh, it's so OP because there's no stride cost. When you stride on top of him, you can dominate or shihai one of the opponent's units, stand it, give it 4k, and then attack any unit. Everyone was like, wow, you don't need a counterblast for it, it's so good, wow. But the thing is, it's kind of, in my opinion, the newer stride skills like Chronojet G, Altmao, and Chronojet G and Altmao typically, even though Altmao is not that amazing, they don't actually have a stride cost either, but they can make a lot of plays with what they do. So I feel that this is in the same line as those two. And it's not that OP or not that powerful that you need a counterblast for it, because already the deck eats up quite a lot of counterblast as it is. And keep in mind for this card that it can attack any unit, so if you really want, you can wipe out, like, dominate a Blast Blade and attack a Flogo if you really want. That's typically how I like to use it, just to get a bit of control on the field as my first stride. I'll like swing at a rearguard maybe just to like pressure them to guard that rearguard if they want to keep it. But yeah, for Oboro because he's your main ride target. On one original Shonui, he's mainly here to guarantee that you ride a Shiranui, because your deck's dead without a Shiranui. So his ability is when you stride, you can counterblast one, and they bind a rearguard, and then discard a card. Yeah. And then at the end of turn, they add that card back to the hand. And at Generation Break 2, when he attacks, if you have less cards than your opponent, he gets 5k in a crit. Barely ever use this guy. You always want to see Oboro as your ideal ride. So yeah. Next up for your other grade 2, the common from gbt11. I really like this guy. I only play 2. So his ability is at Generation Break 1, once per turn, you can rest one of your rearguards, and then your opponent chooses one of their rearguards, give it plus 3k. And if they choose a rearguard to give power, this guy gets plus 10k power. So he becomes 21 beat stuck on himself, which is really good. And he can combo really well with this crit trigger, because he can rest this crit trigger and then get the 10k, move it to soul immediately, counter charge, and then you technically don't lose a boost because you can just call another unit. So that's really good. Also helps dominated units hit a better number when you go into Mugen Lord or Magen Temple. So yeah, that's it for grade 3s. On to the grade 2s. Playing 4 Furai. He's pretty good because he allows you to get units onto the field to be dominated. Like, a lot of times people don't like calling out units, so Furai will help you, Oboro will help you. So Furai is really good for the deck. So what he does is Generation Break 1, once per turn, you can Soul Blast 1 and choose a card from your opponent's drop zone, and they must call it to an open rearguard circle. And at end of turn, retire it. So slightly different from Oboro, because this one has to call to an open rearguard circle, meaning they can't just make the same amount of units. So you're guaranteed to let them technically +1, so you can dominate that extra unit, which is really good. The second ability is at Generation Break 1, whenever another unit attacks, if you have a Shiranui Vanguard, this unit gets +2k. So that includes your opponent. Whenever another unit attacks during your turn. So that includes the dominated units on your opponent. So if you get 6 attacks, like 6 dominated attacks, this becomes 21k by itself, which is really good. So that's why I play 4. He's a good beater. This deck actually can't have troubles hitting hard without Furai or your other grade 3. It hits mediocre numbers. The gameplay of the playstyle of the deck is let your opponent overcommit, and that's how you win. If your opponent doesn't overcommit, you typically lose out because you can't hit as hard as them. You can't make as much of an impact as your opponent. And that's just how I feel as of playing it. Next up, I play 4 Genkai because he's your draw engine and you really want to see him. So Genkai's skill is whenever a dominated unit attacks at Generation Break 1, you can Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. If you have a Shiranui Vanguard, you can pay the cost. If you do, you can draw a card and he gets +2k. So he becomes 11 by itself, which is pretty nice. And yeah, he helps you draw. Though, I know, once again, people were like, oh my gosh, this card's so good for a trial deck card. You can spam it so much, more than once per turn, but you don't really want to spam it more than once per turn because it eats up Counterblast way too much, and this deck, at least the way I'm playing it, doesn't countercharge enough to allow you to spam this guy. So, he's not that amazing, but getting him once or twice a game is actually pretty good because it just helps you with that draw power because this deck doesn't have that much draw power. Not that Nubatama ever really had that much draw power. Next up, I'm playing 3 10k vanillas. These can be literally anything you want. But for me, like I said, Night Rose is one of the most popular meta decks in my area, so I really want to see these just to stop their turn 2 like 9k pokes. And it's really important just to get these. And these cards aren't exactly, how do you put it, dead, even late game, because with the grade 1, if you get 3 dominated attacks, you can make a really nice column of 26, which is pretty good. So yeah, that's it for grade 2s. For grade 1s, 4 stride fodder from the trial deck. Nothing really more to say here. Just really good. Search out your Shiranui in case you don't have it, your Oboro in case you don't have it, and this is a stride reliant deck, so you gotta play it. I actually like this artwork because the way he's holding his swords look a lot cooler than the rare, but that's just my opinion. I know some people say it looks derpy, but I like this artwork. Next up, we're playing 3 Stealth Dragon Tingle. He looks like a dragon. No, he actually looks more like a horse to me, like a horse like neighing, but he's an Abyss Dragon apparently. So his ability is actually really good. He is your countercharging engine. I would play 4, but I want to make room for other grade 1s. So whenever a dominated unit attacks, he gets the red text ability. At the end of the turn, you can move him to the soul, and then you can countercharge one. Pretty simple, pretty good. Fills up soul, which is important for Genkai. Countercharges, which is important for everything, because everything in this deck eats up counterblast, which is nuts. This deck uses so much counterblast, it's crazy. So yeah, this is really good. You really want to see him. It's good. Next up, we're playing 3 of Seizui. I think that's how you pronounce it. Sorry if I butchered the name. He's your booster from the trial deck. Is really good. So basically, whenever a dominating unit attacks, he gets +2k to end of turn. So this can stack. So that's what makes it really good. So one dominated unit attacks. This is a 21k column. This is also a 21k column. So that's really good. This just makes a 20k column. So not as good, but if you get 3, it makes 26. So yeah. This is really good. It helps you hit good numbers. I really like these guys. And I probably would not play them because they're just that important for how I personally play the deck. Next up, I'm playing 1 Tenri. He is mostly here for laughs because I barely ever use his first skill that copies everything, like all the opponent's Vanguard details. I normally just do it for kicks, like, oh no, I'm Messiah Vanguard, ha 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 ha, very funny. Very rarely I use the first skill. Second skill is okay, so at the end of the battle that he attacked or boosted and it hit a Vanguard, you can move him to Soul to make your opponent discard a card. It's okay, but really I'd prefer the counter charge from this. So it's an okay pressure, but I really don't like it that much. Yeah. Next up for Perfect Guards, we're playing 4 of the retrieval ones because retrieving Perfect Guards is really good. So this one's ability is, you know, the regular Sentinel. The regular Perfect Guard chooses any unit to protect, which is pretty good. Then while it's in drop zone and a dominating unit attack hits a Vanguard during your turn, you can move 1 copy to the bottom of your deck and put another copy from drop zone to hand. So if you have 2 in drop zone, you put 1 to bottom of deck, 1 to hand, and you get a recycle Perfect Guards if a dominated unit attack hits a Vanguard. So that's pretty cool. I do like it. If you want, you can play on flipper ones, but I don't like it using the unflipper ones because it doesn't add extra pressure. That's just basically it. So next up was triggers. We're playing 3 Noroi. I've seen most builds actually play 4 of him because, you know, it's the Shiranui crit. It's really good. The reason why I'm not playing 4 is 1, I don't have 4, so I can't. But 2, I actually find 3 is better because I find late game I never really use it, and I'd actually rather use this crit from the trial deck. The set from set 11 is your move to soul countercharge one. I'd rather use this guy over Noroi because countercharging is so valuable late game, and this guy's only really good early game. So I mean, it's nice to have this, but I'd rather actually have these guys because they're just so nice to have. Yeah. Also, if you're grade 3 that rests, where is he? Yeah, this guy. I feel I'm still losing a 4k boost if I rest Noroi with this guy, but with this I feel I don't lose the 4k boost. So that's just my opinion. Yeah, I only play 6 crit because I play 3 stands. Stands are actually pretty decent with the deck because Furai gains power, this guy gains power, Genkai can hit decent numbers. He can hit 16 by itself, which is pretty good. So this guy's ability is when he's placed on Rearguard Circle, if you have less cards than your opponent, you can shuffle him back to deck and then draw a card and then give a unit 3k. Oh, jokes, you draw a card, then shuffle. Okay. So it's not actually that endless loop. My bad. Okay, so I already know that I misplayed with this card because I shuffled it back first, then drew a card. No, you draw a card, then shuffle. So keep that in mind. And free power is always pretty good. Next up, I'm playing 3 draws. Draws are pretty good in this deck, and yeah, they're just really powerful. So this draw trigger is the Margot clone, but it can give power to any unit, which is pretty cool. And then 4 Fighters Collection heals. So this one is when paid for the G card and cost for the Fighters Collection. You can discard a grade 1 or lower, typically a draw, to draw a card. It's not bad, but it's, to be honest, it's better than Vanilla's, even though the trial deck heal does look very nice. So on to strides. We're playing 4 Magen Tambu. He's your ideal first stride. So his ability is Counterblast 1, to the face Persona Flip. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards, and it gets plus 3k for every face-up card in your G zone. So first stride is nearly always 3k, or 6k if you G guarded. And then you can stand it and dominate it. Then attacks your opponent's other unit, and then at the end of the turn, retire that unit. So this is pretty good as a first strike because it hits you to instant GB2 to help you set up for GB8. And also, getting that retire is really good. And on top of the 4k that overall already gives you, you're giving that unit 7k. So if it's a grade 2, just a regular 9k grade 2, it's already hitting 16, which is really good numbers for this. And also, I find myself actually going to the second pair a lot more than I would expect. Like, you'd think after using the first one, you'll just go into Mugen Lord all the time, but very rarely I actually want to go into Mugen Lord after my second stride, because just they don't commit enough to the field to make me want to use Mugen Lord that often. So I'd typically just go into another set of these guys and just force them to try and commit something else to the field before I go into Mugen Lord. But that's just me. Speaking of Mugen Lord, I am playing 4 of him because you might as well. So his ability is Counterblast 1, Persona Flip. Once per turn, Persona Flip. Choose any number of players' rear guards as face-up cards in your G zone, and they get plus 4k to end of turn. So if you have 7 face-up, you can give 7 units plus 4k, including your own. So it's a field pump, which is really nice. And then you stand all your opponent's rear guards that were chosen and then dominate them. And then they all attack your opponent's Vanguard. So in the anime effect, well, bondage plays are OP. It's not safe for work anymore, boys. But in the anime, they always got like 5 attacks off, which is the most ideal situation. 5 attacks when they're at 5 damage. And then on top of that, already pumping up your own field of it is really good. But it's not too amazing, actually, because I find at most my opponent has 3 rear guards, so I end up pumping my own field most of the time. So like I'll have 8 face up, and then I pump their 3 and then pump the rest of my field, and that's all I can do with it. I'm not getting that devastating, bam, here, 5 attacks coming your way when you're at 5. But it's a good card, not overpowered, it's not broken, it's not game. It is game breaking, but it's not the same impact everyone was hyping it up to be. So yeah. Next up, we're playing 1 from the trial deck, because I don't have the GR from Tech Booster. If you have the GR from Tech Booster, play that instead. So this one is quite simple. At the beginning of your battle phase, you can stand a unit and dominate it. It's quite simple. It's quite easygoing, I guess. So, yeah. I very rarely go into it. Next up, we're playing 1 GB8. This card's actually pretty good. So, at Generation Break 8, when your opponent's Guardian is placed onto the Guardian Circle, you can either Counterblast 1 or Soul Blast 1. And if you do, they must discard 2 cards. This is amazing. Like, oh my gosh. Because this deck actually builds up a lot of soul. Its main problem is Counterblast, but the soul is actually... You have quite an abundance of soul. So you can spam the soul usage with this. Like, sometimes you can get 3 or 4 uses of this off, because they'll guard a dominate attack, and then they have to guard all your other attacks yourself. And so they just got so many cards of this just from Soul Blasting. Because you don't want to use Counterblast. Counterblast is way too precious in this deck. Because this Counterblast is freaking everything Counterblasts. And so yeah, this guy is really good for the deck. This will probably be a Tech Booster GR, and I'll probably play Mukutabo once it comes out, because Mukutabo board wipes are pretty fun, to be completely honest. So yeah, next up for G-Guards, we're playing 2 from the Chow deck, because, yeah, it's pretty good. So basically, if you have less cards than your opponent, less or equal than, it gets 5k shield, so it's just an easy 20k shield, which is pretty good. Next up, we're playing 2 of the Dominate G-Guards. So, when first on Guardian Circle, you can Counterblast 1, Soul Blast 1. Choose an opponent's grade 1, not grade 1 or lower, just grade 1, rear guard from the back row, has to be back row as well, and dominate it, move it to Guardian Circle as your own Guardian. This is actually very restrictive, very situational card, but I play 2 just in case. It's not OP, it's not that great, because it does eat up a decent amount of resources. Like, this is an extra draw of Genkai cost, so it's not that amazing. 1, Fighters Collection G-Guard, because reaching GB8 is faster, and if they did go YOLO, you can get an easy 20k shield. And typically I am flipping up one of these because I very rarely actually use this twice due to counterblast management in this deck. So yeah, once set 12 hits down, I'll probably take out one of these guys and the Child Deck guy for a Mukuba and GR if I do get them. So yeah. And then last but not least, I'm playing the 1 Sea Breeze, your GB, your Generation Break, your Stride deck. You gotta have the Sea Breeze just to ensure that you can actually stride. And since your stride skill is free, it's not the worst thing in the world. You do this, you dominate a unit, and swing, and they'll probably take like 3 damage that turn. So hopefully you can punish not bad players, but stalling players with Sea Breeze. So yeah, that's that. So yeah, that's it for this deck profile. Hope you all enjoyed. Hope I can provide a little bit of insight into my take on Dominate and how I feel about it. It's not broken by any means. It's fun. It is powerful, but not broken and like horrible as everyone says it is. So yeah, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.